how to communicate, how to correct a dog so that it makes sense. So often we're spending all this time saying, no, 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 and our dog is not listening to us. So why is that happening? And what important things can you change? Just some minor changes so that you are communicating correctly with your dog, so that you have this relationship that we all want. There's nothing more frustrating than we feel like we can't communicate and that they don't listen to us, they don't take us seriously. And, nobody wants a naughty dog, a dog that's barking at the door, lunging on the leash, whatever, getting into the trash, nipping at the kids, chasing them, chasing the cat, all of those type of things. And I know I touch on this a lot in other shows, how to correct a dog correctly so that it makes sense to them. But now we're going to really break it down so you have this content. And of course, share this, video with anybody that has a dog, especially, those people that their dog doesn't listen to them at all. We all know those people and those parents, right? That the kids don't listen to their parents. And really it's similar because, it's just lack of follow through and lack of actual consequences. And dogs, just like kids, absolutely know when they don't have to take you seriously. So that's what we're going to talk about today so that we can make some few changes in how we're correcting our dog, how it makes sense to them so that we can communicate correctly. Hey, you need to stop this behavior now. And the beautiful thing is once you set this foundation, it's a lot of work at first. With the puppy, it's not, it's still a lot, but once you're consistent, then they understand, oh, mom means business or dad means business. If you already have an established dog and they haven't been listening to you for a long time because you haven't had the consequences and the follow through, this will take longer, but hang in there. The important thing is, even with kids or dogs, you can change your relationship with them. And that is what we're here to do today, is to teach you how to communicate correctly. Janelle, my standard poodle knows what to do and not to do, but she breaks the rules if my back is turned. She's crazy, smart, and high energy. Yeah, let's just be real. There's just some dogs like that. They know the system. They know what they can get away with. They know when you're not watching or how long you'll be gone, and definitely try to get away with things they probably know that they shouldn't. So prevention is really important with that, or you can do some training and kind of set them up to that and then make sure you catch them. So let's get started with the first thing here. I've got the 3 things to do, super important to make a correction matter, to make a correction make sense, to stop a dog in a negative behavior. Now, we're talking, and what I love about doing this with your dog is that it translates to anything in the future that you say no or or whatever that word is for you that means just stop. That's essentially what we're building right now. So down the road, it doesn't matter where you are. Maybe they haven't been in that situation. Maybe they've never seen or experienced this. But when you say stop, they know without a doubt they have to stop that behavior, or there will be a consequence that they don't like. And that's what it comes down to. Here we go. Number 1. Interrupting the behavior before it starts. This is one of the biggest mistakes people do. They wait for the puppy to already be barking or their dog to already be barking or already chasing or already digging or already doing the negative behavior. And it's really difficult to correct them, because what happens is if they're barking at the door or the window, people walking by, and you're yelling, quiet, 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 you literally are barking with your dog. They're like, all right, mom's barking with me. We're both barking. This is great. Bark more, right? Or if the dog is chasing the cat already and you start chasing the dog, you've literally started playing with them. They're like, yes, mom's chasing the cat too. I love chase. Like, dogs love tag. They like to chase each other. They take turns. So when you're out there trying to chase your puppy, you're literally playing with them. So we want to make sure if there's a negative behavior that your puppy does at any time that you do not want to have, let's say barking at the door or barking at people walking by or chasing the cat or even jumping on the couch, you have to correct the behavior before it happens. You have like 3 seconds. So you can't correct the dog once it jumps on the couch. You can pull them back down and tell them no. But again, that's just a game to them. Like, pull me down, I jump back up. Pull me down, I jump back up. They're like, okay, this is kind of like a stupid human game, but whatever. Like, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And they do it. They're like, they look at you like you're crazy because you are acting crazy. They don't understand what they're supposed to do. But I will tell you without a doubt, if you catch that dog or that puppy ready to put their paws on the couch, no, and you interrupt that behavior, Interrupt the behavior before it starts is the first important thing in correcting a dog so that it makes sense to them. They know exactly without a doubt what they're being corrected for. Once you wait 3 seconds, they don't know what you're correcting for. They've already been barking. They're already chasing. That's not a correction. You're not telling them to stop that behavior because you didn't do it at the beginning. All right? Just like if a dog pees on the floor, this one just think about what we all used to do. Those that are a little bit older like me, right? Back in the day, and some people still do this, and if you know anybody that does, please explain how a dog views how crazy you are when you do this. If they pee on the floor and you didn't catch them, what used to be the thing people would do, they'd take their dog and rub their nose in it and put them outside. From the dog's point of view, they're like, I know what my pee smells like. Why are you rubbing my nose in it? Like, I know what this is and I know what it smells like, and then you're putting them outside. There's no correlation. They don't understand what you're trying to do. Like, it doesn't even make sense. So if a dog has already done it, if they've already gotten in the trash, they've already jumped on the couch, they're already barking, your job now is to say, I have to interrupt behavior before it starts. It's a challenge, you guys. It's a challenge. So step up to the challenge. Pay attention, practice, and proof. Proof this behavior over and over and over again. Like, I'm always like, okay, come on. Like, I'm not going to tell them to get on the couch, but I'm just like waiting. Like, I'm just walking around the couch like, go ahead and try it. I'm going to get you the minute you think you want to put your front paws on my couch, I'm going to correct that behavior. Correction can be something as simple as a no and a clap. You have to go above their intensity, that thought, so that it interrupts that thought. Like, ooh, I got in trouble for that. I don't want to do that. That's all you have to do. The second thing, so you got the timing correct, right? So you interrupted the behavior. Number 2 that's so important is follow through. You're not done. You can't just interrupt that behavior and then turn around and walk away. The puppy will actually absolutely jump on the couch. The follow through is you have to stand and freeze or stay and freeze or body block and freeze. So for example, if I don't want the dog on the couch, I corrected the behavior before they even put their paws on the couch, right? I did it right. I got it. My timing was perfect. They looked at me. I interrupted that thought. They thought, ooh, I don't think I'm supposed to do this. Then I'm going to walk over. I'm going to place myself between the dog and the couch, and I'm going to stand there and I'm going to freeze and stare at the dog. That's it. I don't have to put a hand. You correct your dog all day long without even touching your dog, right? So I'm going to stand between the couch and the dog. A couple things could happen. And this depends too if your dog is older and established and it's been jumping on the couch for a while, or a brand new puppy. But I'm going to stand and freeze, and you have to do that until the dog relents, until the dog gives up, until the dog knows, okay, fine. How do we know? What does that look like? They'll turn around and leave. They'll take a deep sigh and avoid contact. You'll see it. They'll go, and they'll put their head down, or they'll just lay down and not look at you. They'll avoid you. Now I know that I've correctly corrected my puppy. We have absolutely communicated. We both know exactly what I'm asking. You cannot be on the couch. Okay, fine. Now you're more assertive puppies, or if a dog's been doing it for a while, you interrupt the behavior before it starts. You do your follow through. Okay, now the puppy or your dog relented, right? So you can walk away now. What are they going to do? They're going to absolutely try to do it again. They're going to test you and challenge you, right? You have to repeat. You have to be consistent. You have to do it every single time. And then you may have to clap and storm over a little bit louder with a little more intensity, be like, oh, I think you're confused. We just had this conversation. Let's have it again. And remind you, this is not going to happen. You are not allowed on the couch. You are not allowed to chase the cat, or whatever it is, whatever your rules, boundaries, and limitations are. You're training through expectation of behavior in your home, and you have to be communicating this correctly with your dog, okay? So you have to repeat it 100% of the time. Is it a lot of work? Yes, it's a lot of work, especially initially. Less work with a newer puppy once you establish, because remember, like I said, if you set this foundation up, when I say no, I mean it. And if you continue, there will be a natural consequence that's uncomfortable. That natural consequence is I stand in your space I don't have a good energy about me. I have a you're not going to do this kind of energy. Nobody likes that, right? And if I had to walk into them a little bit into their space, that absolutely makes sense to them. Or body block the couch. No, I was very clear. We're not going on the couch right now, right? Till they give up. And then they're going to watch you walk away. And I'm like, oh, I'm going on the couch, but you have to be ready. You have to be in training, stealth, ninja mode. You have to catch them before they do it. You have to do the follow through. You have to repeat every single time and be consistent. If you put this work in, what you will get is a dog at 3 or 4 or 5 years old for the rest of their life, that no matter what situation you're in, no matter what arises, all you have to do is do your or your no, I don't think so. And your dog absolutely knows what that means because they respect you. You become a fair and consistent leader, and they absolutely and actually thrive with this kind of fair leadership in their pack. Now remember, especially with a puppy, for every time you have to do a correction, please make sure in your mind you do 3 praises at least for every correction. You can't just be this negative leader. You're not being a leader if you're just walking around saying no, no, no all the time. None of this will make sense. Save these corrections for things that matter, right? You can't, I would never do this if they're chewing up my shoe. Because I left the shoe out, that's my fault. I'll do the treat game. I'll bring them to the fridge. I'll give them something really good. I don't want to add value to the shoe. If we chase them, if you go to chase something your dog has and you chase them for it and grab it out of their mouth, you have just made that item very, very valuable. And that's the last thing I want to do. And if you make items too valuable, there are some puppies and some breeds that are predisposed more than others to guarding and gulping. So we don't want resource guarding. We don't want this shoe to be so important that the whole pack will chase them. Do you see in their mind that's what you're doing? You're making this item very, very valuable. Everybody wants it, and they're going to fight for it, essentially. Change the switch, and we'll have a whole show about this treat game too and why it's so important. But change that communication, change that relationship between the two of you. Simply say treat game. I'll teach that to you on another show. You'll go to the fridge, you'll get something high value, you'll go back, you'll pick up the shoe, no big deal. So don't set the puppy up to fail with all these little things and you're saying no and you're correcting and you're correcting. You can't do that either. Like, not for a child, not for a puppy. You have to make sure you're only correcting things that are really important initially, and the rest, the best thing you can do is prevention and distraction, right? So set your area up for your puppy that you're not having, you're not setting them up to fail. They can't get into the toilet paper. They can't chase the kids. They can't chase the cat. They can't chew on the couch. They can't poop in the front room. They can't chew up the rug, right? You're allowing all that freedom for them to fail and they don't understand. So if that's the way it is and you feel like all you're doing is walking around saying no, like the puppy literally thinks his name is no, you have some changes to make. You're not being a good leader. You're not being fair and consistent, and the puppy totally tunes you out as they should. You would tune yourself out, right? Yes, I know you would. It's like the husband that doesn't listen to his wife anymore. He's totally tuned out, or the kids that don't listen to you anymore because you say, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room, but you never go and check that they did it, so they stop doing it. We all have that in our nature. We'll try to do the least possible amount of work if we don't get caught, right? So a puppy's no different than that. If they're not going to get caught or held accountable, they're going to keep doing it. So there you go, you guys. The 3 steps to making a correction count, to communicating with your puppy correctly, teaching them with fairness and consistency of what the expectations are in your pack. And just as importantly, you are laying this foundation of this life skill and relationship and mutual respect that down the road, anytime you say no or whatever your no word is, no, a clap, a point, your more submissive dogs, all you have to do is give them that look like and they stop. Your more assertive, strong-willed dogs, your intensity may have to be higher. You always have to be above the intensity of the puppy in this correction for it to work. But what a beautiful thing. 3 steps, so easy. Make these adjustments and see how effective it is with your dog. And you'll be like, holy heck, they understood what I meant. They stopped barking at the door for at least 2 seconds, and then they went back again. And you're going to repeat 100% of the time initially. Put in the time now. Put in the time to have this dog that is respectful, and you have this very balanced, beautiful relationship between you and your dog where you're not constantly butting heads and so frustrated that the dog doesn't listen to you. I'm so tired of hearing about we have all these bad dogs. No, we have bad communication. That's what it comes down to. We have bad communication between human and dog, and something as simple as this can really make a huge difference with the relationship between you and your dog. And how much less frustrating for our puppies to understand exactly what you mean? Because think of it from before, like you're chasing the puppy that's chasing the cat. You're actually playing. You're chasing him to try to catch him from outside. My puppy won't come, and I'm chasing, and they're running from me. Well, no shit. That's their favorite game. Playing chase, tag. You're it. Have you not seen two dogs play? They take turns chasing each other. It's bad communication. And think of it from a puppy's point of view. Now you pick them up and you're mad at them, and they have no idea what the heck they did because you literally just told them to play chase. Imagine how frustrating that is for puppies to be so misunderstood. And puppies get frustrated too. And if they can't count on you and you don't communicate correctly with them, you're missing out on such a beautiful relationship with your dog, the true power of a dog. All right, questions. So exciting to be able to talk about this because it's really not that difficult, and it's life-changing to be able to communicate correctly with your puppy. All right, Sonal, how do you deal with barking that seems to stem from anxiety? So, I mean, anxiety is tough, and we've talked about on other past shows to make sure when you get your puppy initially to start leaving them right away. Don't make the kennel something negative. Keep our feelings in check. But it depends if is the barking when you're there or not there. You can employ, bark collars on them that will help remind them not to bark. You can look at, homeopathic like thunder shirts for anxiety. Something as simple as leaving the TV on for them. There's lots of different problem-solving things you can do when dealing with anxiety. But ultimately, if they're barking at you, like if you're making food or if you're in the car, and most likely they're being bossy, they're being demanding and telling you like, hurry up, or let's do this, or let's do that. And you can correct that just the same. So that's a tough question to answer without a lot more information, exactly what they're barking at, when they're barking, where you're at, what's triggering it, how are you responding to it now? So many times we're rewarding it and don't even realize it, like by picking them up, like that's rewarding, right? Calling them and petting them or distracting and giving them a treat. Like, okay, like literally you just rewarded them for barking because you called them to you and then gave them something in their mind, right? So a lot of questions I would have about that more specifically. She responded, it's when we are there and new people coming in the house. So do that correction just the same. A leash is highly effective. Again, so I would even back up now. We already know what's going to happen. The dog's already showed us what they're going to do. Have you taught the dog, let's try to prevent this. Have you taught the dog to go to the bed and do place and stay? Dogs can't do two things at once. They can't be barking at somebody and be focused on staying on their bed at the same time, right? In a downstay. So I would do some prevention and start teaching stay. So when someone comes in, they're on their bed and they're in a stay. That takes time, or maybe they have to be in their kennel, or maybe they're on the leash with you. Now, is the dog barking because it's anxious, excited, fearful? What is happening when people come over, Sonal? Are they petting your dog and your dog doesn't really appreciate that yet? Or is there too much pressure put on the dog? I would also then ask anybody coming over, can you help with my puppy? We're doing some training. Please act like they're invisible. No touch, no talk, no eye contact. Literally pretend like my puppy is invisible. No human pressure placed on this puppy. That alone can change them feeling anxious with all the people coming in, because usually then everybody sees a cute puppy, right? So emotions go up. Our vocal, we have a higher pitch in our voice. Oh my gosh, it's a puppy. And we're reaching down and we're picking them up. And think about it from that puppy's point of view. Not all dogs like that kind of attention, just like people. So honor your puppy, listen to what they're telling you, make some of those shifts and changes. And it may take a few different things to try so that you can help eliminate some of that anxiety upon meeting new people. Make them invisible, take all that pressure off of them, give them a safe space, put them on a leash so they have that connection with you, that you will control the environment and not let people pet and touch them until they are ready, until they approach, until they make that initiative to connect with the human. I would never push that. Let it be on their accord. Good question. All right. So what if they don't hear you? They're in the zone. See, Jenkins, good question. You haven't corrected before they've started it. That's number one. You have to do it. You have to interrupt the behavior before it starts. So if you know you walk your dog and they bark at other dogs, let's say, or bikes, and they try to chase and bark at a bike, I already know that's going to happen. So now as a trainer, now as their human, I have to interrupt the behavior before it starts, because once they get in that high threshold of arousal, that high state of arousal, barking and wanting to chase, that's really difficult to stop. Like you're saying, they don't hear you, they tune you out. And if you're yelling and you're pulling, you're actually joining in and making things even worse. And so your job now is, dogs do everything with a warning, right? It could be it could be a half of a second. That minute they're like, bike, boom, right then and there, before they bark, before they move, you correct the crap out of that. No, no, no. I said no. Put them in a sit stay, put them in a down stay, get their focus on you, start training and doing lines. Like, I think that's one of the most effective things, is to train through it, because again, they cannot focus on two things. So if they're doing a sit stay for you and they're looking at you, they can't be chasing and barking at the bike. So ultimately it's changing that relationship and their focus. So eventually it will be, I see the bike, and guess what? I look at mom because she's going to give me a treat. I mean, how beautiful is that? We're just changing the conversation of what the hell that bike means. No more over arousal, no more pulling and barking. Instead, I see the bike, I look to mom, and I get a high value treat. How amazing are these bikes? Right? So change that conversation, but you cannot correct a dog once they're already in that heightened state of arousal. The only way to do that is to do something more aversion kind of training. And that's where people will use the remote collars to stop them in that high state of mind. And for some dogs, that's absolutely necessary. It's life or death. And we have to do that to rehab more aggressive or fearful dogs. Like, it's just needed to save them so that we can interrupt that thought. They go so high in their state of arousal. We have to match or go above that. So again, don't let them get in the zone. You have to stop it before they get there. And that is so important, as timing. I missed the first part of this. Will there be a replay? Yes, Rebecca, it will be on YouTube. Plus it will be here on our Facebook page as well. You can go back and watch it at any time, or start it over right now if you wanted to. And it will be on our new podcast, so you can check in later to that. We're building it now. And of course, this will be under how to correctly correct your dog. Sonal, it's when, okay, we already got that. The people coming over. Stephanie, my puppy won't stop chewing on the pebbles in the backyard. How do I correct that when pebbles are everywhere? So that's really, really difficult. I think you're asking the wrong question. I don't want to go around and try to keep correcting my puppy with the pebbles. So I would make changes in the environment so the puppy can't get to the pebbles, or like do some landscaping changes also, like let's just make our life easier. Plus, if they eat too many pebbles, it could cause a blockage and could actually kill your puppy. So I'd cover with pavers, fencing, something. I would change it. I would do some prevention. And then over time, when they get a little bit older, you can see if they probably won't keep eating the pebbles. But here's probably something else that's happening. You're probably inadvertently making these pebbles more important than they are, because it's scary when they start to eat it, right? Because you're like, oh my God, you can't eat the rocks. So what do? You probably kind of flip out for a minute. Oh my gosh, don't eat the rocks. And you're grabbing their mouth and getting the rocks out, right? Now you've made those pebbles really valuable. So now they're going to eat them more. So probably between that, I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but that's what most people would do normally. I don't want my dogs eating rocks, but because of my reaction to that, I've actually made it more important, making them want to eat the rocks even more. So you could do prevention. If you can't do that, you could do distraction and try to distract them. Go out with some training treats every time they go to the rocks, call them, put them on a long lead. Come, puppy, puppy, come, come, come. Give them a high value treat. Let them go back again, right? And you're teaching come at the same time. So they go back over to the rocks. Hey, puppy, come, come, come. And don't let them fail. So you're going to get a 30-foot long lead, reel them in, give them treats. So you're also laying this foundation of every time you talk, or I'm going to keep checking with mom. She's so important. And now all of a sudden these rocks don't matter, So there's a couple different ways around that depending on what you feel most comfortable with. But you can't just go around saying no, no, no all the time. They'll tune you out. It doesn't make sense. You can't correct a whole yard full of rocks. Really difficult, or it's not one plant or one area. Heather, I have 2 that listen and 1 that constantly tests me. Yeah, it's probably the baby that tests you still. That's just nature. They will test. They go through toddler years and teenage years, and then, even moving into adult. And plus, some dogs are just more naturally inclined to challenge. They're more assertive. They're more strong-willed. They're more stubborn. And so a lot of it depends on the personality of the dog as well, just like with people. Roxanne, question, how soon do you praise after the correction, or do you just provide separate praise throughout the day? I never praise after a correction, number 1. I want to make it as neutral as possible. I corrected, I follow through, you understood, I leave. The praise will come separate throughout the day. Anything else that puppy's doing good. Following me, yes, good follow. Eye contact, watch me, yes. Sitting, I name it, I reward it. They're like, whoa, I just sat and I'm getting rewarded and praised. So I just will do that training throughout the day. I'll catch the behavior I like, I name it, I reward it. And then I become like I hung the moon and the stars, right? I'm like this amazing treat dispenser, and the puppy wants to follow me everywhere because they're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to get treats for doing nothing. And you're teaching them basic obedience at the same time. When they do a behavior I like, I name it and I reward it. Get yourself a cool little fanny pack. It's a must-have when you have a puppy in the house. Keep their kibble in it. We always start low, wait for them to get older until we have to increase the value of the treat. But I use kibble. They have to earn, especially if you have a day off, like for their whole day, you can put their kibble in your fanny pack, and you can work them throughout the whole entire day, or even giving them a handful at a time for being focused and waiting. Use the food before you feed for training. But yeah, never praise after a correction. Don't pet and feel bad after a correction. Now you're hella confusing and unreliable. Now the puppy's really confused. Like, you just corrected me. Now you feel pity for me, right? No, matter of factly, walk away. We're done. We had that conversation. I'm glad we both understood. I'm glad we both can agree you're not going to be on that couch, and walk away. Matter of fact, that's it. Catch the puppy doing something great later, name it, reward it. Absolutely. Good question. I'm glad you brought that up, because you don't want to praise or correct now that the puppy didn't get on the couch. Just be very neutral about that. Heather says, Schroeder barks at me the second I sit down to watch TV. He's assertive and strong-willed. I'm not successful with correcting him. The clapping and saying a firm quiet just provokes him because he wants you to get up. He's being sassy. He's somehow getting rewarded, Heather. So even if the clapping and the firm quiet is giving him attention, he's absolutely, you're rewarding him some way. So you have to figure that out as well. But he's being bossy as heck, man. So, it could be something. He starts barking and goes in the kennel, and he learns, if mom's on the couch and I bark, I go in the kennel, and it's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down for a while. Let him out. The minute he starts barking at you again, back in the kennel, just matter of fact. And maybe that association will be like, heck, I don't want to bark at mom when she's on the couch, because then I have to go into my kennel. But I don't want the kennel to be a negative thing, but it can be a quiet timeout. What about if he's tethered to you and you do sit on the dog and give him something to do while you're sitting on the couch? You've got to reframe this relationship, because he's being bossy, and somehow in some way you're rewarding it without meaning to. And I would ask, who does he do it to, Matt? Your husband? Probably not. So what is that different conversation you guys are having? Sassy little thing. He'd be bossy. Question, at what age do you switch to actual treats in the fanny pack? We are on a list for a mini doodle. I will feed their kibble for as long as I can get away with it. They will tell you, and they're like, not so much. It's generally when you start having to add, there's 3 important D words in training: distance, duration, and distraction. So as you start increasing the distance of like a long stay, the distraction, everything that's going around, or different locations of what's happening, and you're still asking them to focus and be obedient. And then distance, duration, distraction, that's distance, and how long they have to do it, the duration of the long down stay, the duration of sit on the dog, whatever. Usually when I start having to increase those 3 Ds, so we're not just in the kitchen, we're not just in the front room anymore, I have to increase the value of the treat. Some puppies sooner than others. Some puppies are happy to have kibble for a long time. Some I have to transition fairly quickly. So go, listen to your puppy, see how long you can get away with it. Sometimes mini doodles aren't super food motivated, so that can be a little bit of a hurdle. But of course, do it before it's feeding time. Even if you end up just asking them to do a few things, a short 5-minute training session, and then give them the rest of their food in the bowl for the remainder of that meal is a fantastic way to feed as well. Make sure they're sitting though, calm, focused behavior before you drop that bowl. Good question. All right, I think we're caught up. Let me scroll through these here real quick. Anybody else have a question? Drop it in. Jean, good question. Please talk about training a puppy alongside an adult dog. The distraction is too high for a puppy, especially in your case. You have a mama and a baby. So you're going to have to do some separation. Shaylee will have to be in the kennel. You have to do some training with Sierra. So there's a lot of double training, going in the car with just Sierra, taking Sierra just to the groomer. We don't want this unhealthy relationship between the two of them either, that they can't do something alone. So the fun part of always getting that second dog is there is more time required. There is additional training. There has to be quiet time, and hopefully Shaylee corrects Sierra as well. But Shaylee's a fantastic dog too, so Shaylee's going to help with a lot of the training. But as far as leash work and kennel training and car rides and basic obedience, you're going to have to do that without mama around. That is a very, very high distraction for a puppy with their mama right there. So do some division, get mama put away in a kennel in a back room with her favorite bone or toy or blankie for nap time, and work with the puppy separately. As the puppy gets better, now we can go to those 3 Ds, right? Distance, duration, distraction. You have a high distraction already in your house. So you can build up to that so that then both will sit. Both will do a long down stay so that you'll have them side by side doing what you're asking. But you have to build up to that. You can't just start doing that now. So pull the puppy separate, do the training separate, and start incorporating your other dog. And that goes for even if they're not mom and puppy, even if you have an established dog and a puppy, there's lots of things that have to be done separately initially in training. And it's important too, because you don't want this unhealthy relationship between the two of them that one absolutely falls apart when you take one to do something else. So set that up right away. I would never share a kennel between 2 puppies. They would always have 2 separate kennels. And I would do lots of things, walks separate initially, right? Grooming appointments even separately. I know it's more work, but I think it's really important to show these dogs that they are okay outside of their pack, or if those 2 dogs are separated, they will be okay and they will come back together again. And you're avoiding a lot of separation anxiety by doing that as well, because they'll have separation anxiety with each other, not just the human leaving, but the other dog leaving. All right, great question. All right, I think we're caught up. Well, thank you guys. What a great Friday show. I am Jeanette with 4E Kennels. We're only healing hearts and changing lives through the power of a dog, but we are changing breeding from bad to badass. And I'm taking a huge, over 4,000 breeders are in my mentorship class, learning, teaching, guiding. Our dogs deserve more, raising the standards of breeding, educating the public to stop funding puppy mills and ill-intentioned backyard breeders. The one question you should always ask before you buy is, can I return? That will right there eliminate 90% of crap breeding right there. Good breeders will always take back their puppy, whether you have any intention of bringing them back or not. But that should be the very, very first question you ask anybody before you buy. Please don't buy from brokers if you don't know the breeder's name. You can't meet the breeder. You can't see the breeder. They don't have a website. You can't talk to the breeder. Please don't buy. The public itself is funding puppy mills, not us responsible, ethical breeder. So stop putting money in their pockets.